Hey Donald, how are you doing? N- uh, Thanks for joining us
My
for this
pleasure.
conference. Yeah,
I've been looking forward to it. It's been great so far.
great. I hope you enjoy the rest of the days as well. Yeah. So Donald, I always see you as one of the most influential design leaders, and always admire you the way you deliver stuff and the way you think and all.
Mhm.
So I wanted to make sure that people who actually listen to this podcast, what, how that can happen to become a Donald Chestnut.
Mhm.
What is that actually one supposed to do?
It's funny, I appreciate the question and I
Uh-huh.
appreciate the compliments. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I have any secret sauce. I was talking to a few, there's so many amazing
Uh-huh.
young people here and students.
Mm-hmm.
A number have asked some, for my advice and things, but
Mm-hmm.
a couple things
Mm-hmm.
I shared with one student in my career. For one, I just followed my gut.
Okay.
And I think that is
Mm-hmm.
maybe not talked about enough
Mm-hmm.
in the world
Mm-hmm.
because technology has evolved greatly over these last 25 years of UX India, and
Correct.
understanding for me where to take my career and jobs
Mm-hmm.
over time
Mm-hmm.
has been a mix of looking where I think the market is and
Mm-hmm.
also just trusting my gut for where I could learn.
Okay.
But the point that you kind of touched on, communication,
Mm-hmm.
it is, and I spent years in different roles
Mm-hmm.
having to communicate design and ideas around that.
Okay.
I almost worked into my presentation today, and I did talk about strategy and storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
ways to think about your designs in a strategic, short way
Mm-hmm.
to give people a hook to understand the strategy behind it as you explain the details.
Mm-hmm.
The storytelling
Mm-hmm.
is really important.
Okay.
And the ability to frame
Mm-hmm.
ideas and communicate, I think I said in my presentation, 65 to 80%
Mm-hmm.
of a design leader's job is
Mm-hmm.
actually communicating.
Communicating. Mm-hmm.
Very little time is actually spent designing.
Yeah.
Think carefully about it.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I wanted to share, and it was on the cutting room floor of my presentation, is the storytelling is not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
People don't always love it.
Mm-hmm.
Get asked for a show of hands in the room, like how many people love
Mm-hmm.
standing on a stage.
Mhm.
You do it very well.
Mhm.
You notice that? Just do it very well. You've had years of.
Mm-hmm.
Many folks don't, but it's such an important skill,
Mhm.
whether you want to be a design entrepreneur or just a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And my advice there
Mhm.
is just do it.
Okay.
There was a time
Yeah.
there was a time I was going to put this in there because I made my story today very personal,
Mm-hmm.
where I really didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a few, like we can probably all have our spectacular failures. It's
Yes.
communicating,
Uh-huh.
whatever it is,
Uh-huh.
telling a presentation. And I had one
Mm.
that then made me afraid of present. And now
Uh-huh.
I just learned to do it. And I took training and whatever. So I don't know if really that was the root idea behind your question,
Uh-huh.
but I do look back on my career
Mm-hmm.
and find that some of the things that I loved doing the least,
Mm-hmm.
disliked,
Mm-hmm.
I just did until I learned to love it. And that was kind of my advice, is do it till you learn to learn it. And there's lots of training that's out there.
Yeah, maybe I think it'll be useful for younger generation. How do you take this kind of like failure or rejections? I mean, as you said, sometimes doesn't work. So, what is that? Because designers are very sensitive.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Me too.
yeah.
Yep.
So, how do you manage that rejections or failures?
Such a good question. So there's a book, and you talked about, and others talked about on stage this morning, a growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Growth.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book that helped me called Mindset.
Mindset.
It's a very famous book.
Okay.
Carol Dweck, PhD,
Uh-huh.
very famous book. Simple read, and it's all about what's your mindset for how do you think about your capabilities?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a fixed mindset?
Mm-hmm.
I have these talents, and I could keep applying these talents in a very specific way, but they're fixed talents.
Mm-hmm.
Or do I have a growth mindset?
Mhm.
And maybe my talents are the ability to grow
Okay.
and learn.
Uh-huh.
And those are very different things, particularly as we think about design today and AI growth.
Yes.
And how do I look at my skills? So
Mm-hmm.
understanding where I'm strong,
Okay.
where I'm weak,
Uh-huh.
and failure,
Uh-huh.
all opportunities for growth. So that's a
Okay.
long-winded answer into your question, but
Uh-huh.
failures are the most important learning lessons in anyone's life.
Yeah.
Because you learn and you feel
Yes,
that.
yes,
It's-
yes.
And I always said the only failure
Mm-hmm.
in life is the failure to learn from failure.
Yeah.
So we all have as designers, you put forth an idea, it doesn't work. We
Yeah.
actually develop a product, it doesn't work for some reason. Sometimes it's a market reason, a design choice. I'll stand up in front of a room and have a spectacular loss of train of thought, and then it causes me more fear. Next time, it's not going to happen again. And specifically on that note, there was a point in my career, I think I was around 30 years old, where if I had a presentation that I knew that was 2 weeks in advance or 3 weeks, I would start the dread,
Okay.
fearing it of like, oh, I'm going to have to do this. What if I lose my train of thought and whatever? It was that ingrained, and I'm sure there's people in the room that identify in some form with that. And I went to classes, I learned techniques or whatever, and I started doing it and doing it and doing it. And what it did tap into me is I do like telling stories, clearly. I'm talking now. I do like connecting with people. You know, and I also love, even in a larger setting, connecting with people. That I actually love. So you just do something enough with the right training, and that applies to anything. AI, design skills, designing a product. The failures can present great data for what you need to fix. And people learn.
So you said trainings, right? What kind of trainings they were?
For presentations?
Presentations?
So much. There's so much available. I can share some of what I learned, but I went right when that happened, and I had a boss call me into his office. Like, what happened earlier was a team meeting, and you lost your train of thought. I felt very ashamed of things. Over the course of those few years, I learned from training, prepare.
Okay.
It's not something you like to do. I like to do because I dreaded it. I dreaded so having to extend it and prepare for my knowing what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I think Rohan was joking with me because I didn't have speaker notes today. So I've gone to the reverse, but like planning what you're going to say, planning the first things you say. So if it's a stressful audience, and stress in performing and presenting can come from all different aspects. Someone told me in a class once, sometimes on camera can be very stressful for certain people, sometimes large audiences.
Yes.
Some people are more comfortable large audiences than they are on camera.
Correct.
Sometimes it's having stakeholders, your boss,
Yes.
in the room,
Yeah.
or other people that you are working with. I do find that stressful because they're like, oh, if I'm not clear, I'm not going to, all these different things mean different because we're all different. So understanding there are triggers, preparing what you're going to say, rehearsing it when needed. I don't always do that. Preparing the first things you say, which was a really good tip. So the first 2-3 sentences, if you have that down, you'll know what to do immediately when you hit the stage, because that's sometimes when things are the most.
Yes.
Whatever. Looking out in the audience.
Yes.
I learned that in class. Like you look out diagonally and look back and diagonally. And then you're kind of encompassing everyone. And then there's other techniques. I learned things over the years that if I would hit a point where, my mind was fast enough, sometimes I'd stop and ask a question. And it gives me a chance to bring the audience in.
Great.
If I can think fast enough. It also depends on the room.
Yeah.
So if the room is too big, you can't always do that. So there's tricks.
Okay.
But there are lots of training, online, offline, locally.
Yeah.
And I would take advantage of most everyone, and then I take what I liked and then leave it behind.
Sure. Great. I'm again going back to the previous question, right? Now, maybe like I'll take you back through like maybe a junior designer or whatever the role you started with, but now you're at a chief design officer, a C-level, right? In India, a lot of people aspire to be there, and at the middle they feel that they're not good enough, or maybe they take a path that, okay, I'm fine now, my earning is enough here. So in your life journey, right, how did you start that, and did you have like ever had a goal to reach a particular thing, or it happened organically? Maybe I would like to understand your journey from the beginning, and I'm sure it'll be inspirational for a lot of young generation here.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of asked that question as well. So I didn't have a life plan. And I think it's hard with the work that we do to be so methodical to think in 30 years, when I started this, maybe even more, this is what I want to be as chief design officer. I wouldn't have had the comprehension. Those roles didn't exist. Certainly today. So understanding and following my gut was really helpful. Like, and a couple things that I learned over the years is what are the roles where I can learn the most. Very important criteria, because if you're learning, you're growing. And if I'm growing, I'm hopefully remaining relevant in some form. I think that growth, and that was one piece of advice that I would always give people, is go where you can challenge yourself. So the scenario that you just raised, Bapu, around like, oh, do I want to keep going? And some people are very ambitious at an early age, and some people get comfortable. What I found with myself is I had a desire to stay comfortable, but I had a much bigger desire to just try and keep going. So it wasn't always about getting so senior. And I think that's actually not good for many people, because then they have their sights set on not just your job, but someone else's and whatever. They're just so ambitious versus just progressing. Am I progressing? And as much as I would be torn, like, oh, this is kind of stressful, I'd always want to just challenge myself. And that's advice that I encourage people, if you have that, listen to the challenge, because you will grow in some form or another. But being around, and one other, I think, thing that has shaped me is a humility. I love working. I think UX design is, in digital, I've said, is a very collaborative sport. It's team. So I can come up with an idea, but if I'm working with one other person, it's exponentially better. If I'm working with three. So being very open and not recognizing that I don't have the best answers. I might have some good ideas, and that's true today. But I like and respect pretty much everyone I work with, and I listen. So on my point around a curation, a curative type of leadership, particularly in the world of AI, but that's been key to my growth. Is I feel like I drive from the back of the bus, not the front of the bus. And there's a point at which I have ideas, and we'll put them forth like I did this morning. But there's a point at which when I'm working with a team, I really listen in that different way.
Great.
That's
So
helpful.
you were talking about relevance, right? How do you stay relevant? Because, at the end game, you're curious, and you learn, and, you stay relevant. And then the way the technology is rapidly growing, and things are maybe reimagined. So there's so much stuff to go through, because I see that a lot of young people, they actually they have a lot of time because their job is done, and then the rest of the time they can use it for learning. But you are so busy, you're managing so many projects, so many people, and how do you still stay relevant?
It's a great question. Really good. And even in the last few years, I will relate it, is always questioning. There is no standard path. And businesses, we're in the world of business, even if it's a nonprofit in education, it's a business in some form. It doesn't have to be profit. They constantly evolve. And how things, learning, or whatever it is, healthcare, we saw great examples there. Your role, my role, in any role will constantly evolve. So I went through a soul searching, and part of my presentation today, and I'll make it very real for this conference, was I went from UX design, into what was user experience, into customer experience. Not just one solution of one product, but a full journey. And then thinking about how do you design a company from the outside in. And there was a long time where I was in customer experience roles, chief experience officer, MasterCard, General Motors, and even a Publicis Sapient, really thinking about the experience of a customer. And I came to the point where I realized this job and this role has evolved to a point where it's no longer relevant. It was relevant 10 years ago, and it was really important for some big brands, some of which I just mentioned, to have a chief experience officer, because they recognize that customer experience is very important.
Correct.
What I stepped back about a year and a half ago and thought, what do I want? Where do I think value is? There is value in customer care, which is part of customer experience. There is value in design. So I went back, kind of, I could say it's back, but I went where the value is. And my point is, I think within a company, other stakeholders understand design. There's an output, there's an outcome. They'll always, even if they don't fully understand what goes into it, they get it. Same thing with customer care. Product management, we now talk about platforms and services as products.
Correct.
I think modern product management has subsumed customer experience roles. So staying relevant was a very real question around what do I want for my next job? I value growth in the company. I value growth and learning. Where do I think value is? And a role that I pursued. I mean, I still think having good experiences is helpful for any business. A job title that is focused on that, not so much.
Yeah.
So it's a great example of like, oh, I don't actually want a CXO role. It sounded good in 2012 or 2015 even. I don't think it sounds good anymore with how technology has changed, how product management has changed. But what I did love was design. I did love working with teams. And as I said, design is a team sport. That was a great example of me staying relevant and having to let go of some preconceptions. It's also about growth. Let go of preconceptions around this is my career path and look at things afresh. It's one of the best things I think people can.
Great. So you're talking about that role, right? So a lot of companies, I think they don't even have that role. So you are reporting to product manager, or maybe very rarely you report to CEO or a product owner or a tech. In your case, right? How do you? I don't know whether I don't call it as a pitch to become that, but how did you educate them to have such a role, and did they understand the value you're going to bring into the company?
So I have an easy answer to this question.
Okay.
I didn't have to do that. At Candescent, we are a company where our chief product officer, a wickedly smart gentleman who I worked with twice before as a client, who already knows the importance of design.
Oh, great.
So I didn't have to convert him per se. He knew that this could be a great differentiator for Candescent.
Wonderful.
Because he worked in a place where he did that before, a U.S. bank. So Gareth Chesnut is a great guy and knows and talks now in company culture presentations, positioning. Design-led is there.
Yes.
Now, we are not yet a design-led company, so there is selling in to stakeholders and change that we'll have to continue to go through to make sure that we're realized. But it does, so your question's relevant. So I didn't have to make the pitch for why the role was needed.
Okay.
It was already framed. I do have to continue to reaffirm with stakeholders, our owner, our leadership team, et cetera, who don't always know, design is one of the best ways to differentiate, to create value, to have a higher market cap or value realization. And there's data that shows that, and there's examples that shown that. So I do use those in presentations to share why this is so important.
Okay.
And also to share that design is more than just the pixels on the screen.
Correct.
It's a lot more.
Yeah.
But it's a great question.
Thank you. Maybe it's good for a senior level people. So you are actually talking about, what kind of value you want to add and all, right? How do you measure it? Like now you are a CDO and you already said that this is what I'm going to bring it onto the table. They agreed. Then how do you show the results? How do you measure that?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's not always an easy answer for that. I do love having a comparison before and after, where you can, even in the world of A/B testing, to show how one thing performs versus the other. There's clear differentiators there, but at a highest level, finding the right metrics and building the business case for design always can be a little sticky. There's a subjective part in there, but going, and a lot of what I talk about is outcome based. I love metrics. I loved it at my last role that aren't always just about design, but like a net promoter score can be brilliant because it's a growth metric.
Okay.
If you can have a product and think about a question, mobile app, based on your use of this mobile app, how likely are you to recommend X company? It's very much tied to the mobile app and how it performs. It could be the tech and the features and the design. Those are all parts of design. But having data that actually speaks to that question, speaks to how important it is for them to be promoters. And again, that's not just, is it good? It's so good that I'm going to tell my friend, I'm going to tell my grandmother, I'm going to tell everyone else that they should be using this brand. So those are the metrics that I really love that speak to a real business growth orientation.
But is there any overlap between these metrics can be with the chief product officer and then the chief design officer, right? So who actually claims that?
I don't worry about that as long as they're good.
Great.
So that's the truth. And that, also the question behind, or the point behind your question is design and product are like this. That's where the word experience comes together. But
Yep.
I have found when I'm talking to customers and they talk to me about, oh, you're the chief design officer, that means many things
Correct.
to customers. Oh, I want to talk about a feature. What's that? Product is, we don't know, we're not always in control of what's in the backlog, but we actually should be in some form because you're the voice of the customer. Is it latency and tech? Is there a bug in the code that actually affects the product and the design? Customers, they don't make the distinction.
Okay.
So why should we? So it's really understanding that design and tech and product all blend together. And at Candescent, we now have quad squads where they're all working together. The fourth in the quad is agile. Product, design, engineering, agile.
Okay.
And those folks. And so you don't always need to separate product from design.
Great.
It's all within that team.
Okay. So I'm going to get into India context.
Great.
So interesting that, I had this vision of like 2030 to be India as a design destination. And I was like surprised to see that you have very similar vision. And okay, I'm selfish. I can say that India should be. But what made you to say that? I know it's like, I know that what you are presenting it, but I wanted to know from inside. I wanted to know, because this is very important for, it's we can always say India, everybody feels good. I want the community to take what's your observations, and also if you say that this needs to be there, and let them prepare for that. Okay, I would like to know more about it.
It's funny. I want to see, when you talk about what you want to see, I want to see the team we just talked to take responsibility for it, because it doesn't just happen on its own. It will happen if India and the design community in India realizes there's a real opportunity. Let's go for it.
Okay.
What made me think of this, and what does make me think, is India, the size, the technology element that is present today in India, built over the last 25 years, incredible.
Yeah.
So, and it started under one model, offshoring, then it kind of morphed into global distributed, but now it's just become a fabric unto what India is and who India is. Strong technology. Within design, I see, and I haven't seen this in any other market. For one, I've seen the quality improve exponentially, which is great. So we have great quality in design, not just an approach to kind of quick and fast, but we have, and it was more than that years ago, but it was a little bit of that. Now there's really high quality. What is unique to the design marketplace, particularly UX design in India, in my view, is so many UXers here have come from engineering.
Yeah. Okay.
More than half. I asked at a lunch yesterday in a meeting. I asked this morning, I'm like, how many people? So many folks, because it's a heavy engineering, because it's the tech drive. When we think about our future, AI, that is a tech-driven future.
Correct.
And there's not one job that won't change because of AI. So you have deep tech, you have scale, the size of the population.
Yeah.
You have a design community that's not so born out of traditional and analog design, maybe like it is in other cultures. It is a deeply technology-driven design.
Okay.
So it's those things, and then I add in the diversity that makes up India, helps address diversity of products. So it is a realization that India has the right ingredients at this point. And now it's the opportunity for small entrepreneurs or businesses or larger business to run at it and take it.
Great.
So, and there's growth that needs to happen within that. But that's what makes me think about it.
I'm going to extend a little bit on that. Of course, this still with engineering and design. What about leadership? Do you see that Indian designers have got the leadership skills? Or
such a good question too. I made a point earlier today around strategy and storytelling. And I was reflecting on what has helped me in my design career and knowing this audience. So you were right. I think owning and taking claim to leadership roles is probably something that within the Indian design community is not as natural, maybe as others. But I saw it in some of the questions. So when I talk about strategy design and even a focus on the results, we're not here just for empathy for the users or usability testing, because that could be automated at some point.
Correct.
We're here to build game-changing products that are built from the outside in, from a user, and that's what UX really is about. And after my presentation, bunch of questions, still getting them. There's some young, they are young, I'll say that, designers and students. One was talking about a total addressable market. And here's a product that I'm working on. I want to like, the fact that he was talking in that language is exactly, for one, an outcome driven, a strategic orientation that some people will have and some people won't. And within design, there's always been an individual contributor who's really more heads down into the craft. Probably always will be a role for that. And there's others that grow towards leaders. But understanding business outcomes, being able to talk about your design work strategically and in a really simple way, those are ingredients that help elevate. And I think that's where a lot of Indian designers could use a little bit of thinking, introspection.
Great. Yeah. So maybe a very similar thing, but I think before I ask that question, you are hiring a lot of designers, right? So what is actually capacity you're looking at?
So, and it also speaks to India. Like I look at what we're building at Candescent, and we're looking to grow and really grow in India and grow in North America. But I think within design, we'll probably be 70% India, 30% other places.
Okay.
Which speaks to, well, actually, we should be Indian design led within Candescent within a certain amount of time.
Okay.
So I'm looking to bring on designers that can really run with that flag, as we are a different kind of company.
Okay.
We're hiring about 100 people.
100 people in India?
100 people in Bangalore and Hyderabad. A few of them are here, so we have the first arrivals. We've spun up hiring. It's been crazy in kind of sourcing and identifying and talking to candidates.
Okay.
Seeing a very different type of candidate than I did 5 years ago. Some that are much more product designers that are strategically minded, and I always look for growth. It's like, to get back to our conversation today, have they tried different tools in different ways? But so we have a great opportunity.
So maybe like, I think you already answered a bit. What do you like if I apply for a job? What do you look at? Like, you look at my portfolio or look at my way I understand the business? I don't want to give away all those. Maybe I wanted to understand from your side. What do you actually look at from?
Well, I was listening to you. I was like, check mark, check mark, check mark. First look at the portfolio. So do I see craft and do I see complexity? It's always what the question I ask, and if I'm working with recruiters, has the person worked? Sure, there's lots of work in UX and digital, but have they designed something? Because we're in the world of transactions and consumer tellers and stuff. So the folks have to have a mindset for, was this a commerce related project or B2B? So have they done something? Does it hold up to good design? That's an interesting thing in portfolios. I've seen the watermark or the waterline for design in portfolios in India has gone from here to there. Some of it's due to AI. So I can see that the quality of write-ups and the finesse and visual design, everything looks super visual these days, but I try to make sure, where's the grid? Let's look at this product. Does it have that complexity? What was the changes that were made? So those are the first things. And then I love to talk to the person around understanding their kind of strategic mind. Craft is critical. Strategic mind, are they more oriented towards results in some form? Or do they talk a lot about process? And it's very common in UX. We love our process. I've always joked for the last 15 years, but within the family of UX, we love to talk about this is what we did, this is what we did next, and even in stakeholder meetings and things, like no one cares, or we don't, there's a place for that, but most often. So are they outcome oriented or not? And the last thing I look for is AI. I always have a question around, what do you think? How have you worked? Sometimes I like to be very vague, but I love to see that someone has tried or is using AI-related tools to do something different, even if it's their own time. They just give me an answer about how AI will change the world. We know that. But if they've done something and can talk about it, because then I know their mindset is around the change in design.
Great. I'm going to ask my last question. So if UX India has to be a conference, go-to conference, the whole world, how should we reimagine or how should we change?
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say you could make it a criteria around outcomes.
Okay.
So there's a point, a time and a place for process and methods, but really looking for what is, because that's the value of what we do in products. So making sure that the agenda itself is really oriented towards all things that are outcome oriented. The second thing is I'll put out to my point around challenging everything. Is it always going to be UX India? Could it be product experience, and could it be something else? Like we could think about how where the real value of what we do. I don't know. The time is not now for that, but that might help chart, like, we are design, we are products, platforms, and I have a love-hate thing with the word experience, but who knows?
Yes.
So those are some of the things I think about.
Understood. Great. Thank you so much, Donald. Really insightful. I'm
Really
sure
good.
it will be useful for
Really
the
good.
community. And love to have you again talking, like, since you have been here in India and you will expand in Indian operations. I'm sure Indian communities going to love you.
Would love to come back. Is it Dadiavad? Thank you.